Right now, something is moving through our solar system. 3I, Atlas, and for the first time in history, we are not just watching it. We are questioning it. Milky Way. When data starts to feel wrong as the object approached its closest point to the Sun, its perihelion, instruments aboard the James Webb Space Telescope recorded something unusual. Not a single dramatic event. Not a sudden explosion. But something far more unsettling, patterns that repeat. Satellite dish. The radio telescopes across the world began to notice something subtle. A faint signal. Not loud. Not obvious. But structured. 3 short pulses. A pause. Then again. At first, it was dismissed. Noise. Interference. Random fluctuation. That's always the safest answer in science. But then, it didn't stop. Brain. The problem with repetition in nature. Repetition usually has a cause. Rotation, orbital motion, pulsar emissions, physical vibration, but this pattern didn't fully match any of them. It was stable. Too stable. And stability is where curiosity begins. Shooting star. The turning point. Then came the observation that changed the tone completely. The object didn't just passively reflect sunlight. Its brightness changed in a way that suggested structure. Not randomness. Not chaos. But layered behavior. As if different regions of the object were responding differently to the sun. Now, that still doesn't mean intelligence. But it does mean complexity. And complexity always demands explanation. Satellite. The alignment phenomenon. As tracking continued, astronomers noticed something even stranger. The object's path was not just hyperbolic, it appeared unusually aligned with the plane of the solar system. Almost as if it had chosen a route that passes through multiple planetary zones. Now, scientifically, this can still happen naturally. Gravity fields shape trajectories in complex ways. But the precision of this alignment raised questions. Not answers. Questions. New moon. The silent possibility. At this stage, there are only 3 realistic interpretations. 1. Natural object, most likely, a rare interstellar body with unusual composition and structure. 2. Unknown physical process. Something in astrophysics we have not yet observed. 3. Something artificial, least proven, most debated, a structure or object that behaves with purpose-like patterns. Science does not choose belief. It follows evidence. And right now, the evidence is incomplete. Milky Way. Why this matters. The reason 3I, ATLAS has captured attention is not because it proves anything extraordinary, but because it sits at a rare boundary, where known physics explains part of the story, but not all of it. And history tells us something important. Every time that happens, we discover something new. Compass. The human factor. There is also another layer to this story. Not the object, but us. Because every time humanity encounters something uncertain in space, we do 2 things at once. We analyze, we imagine, and imagination fills the gaps that data hasn't yet closed. That's not a weakness. That's how discovery begins. Shooting star. What comes next is 3I, ATLAS continues its journey outward. Scientists are watching for one key moment. Any change in motion that cannot be explained by gravity alone. Because that would be the turning point. The moment interpretation becomes unavoidable. But so far, nothing confirmed. Only signals. Only patterns. Only questions. Rocket. End of part 3. Right now, the object remains exactly what it has always been, an interstellar traveler passing through our system. But the story is no longer just about the object. It's about what we are ready to believe when the data stops being simple. Something changed after perihelion. Not visibly. Not instantly. But in the data. 3I, Atlas had passed the Sun's closest point. And instead of fading, it stabilized. Sun the moment it should have broken. When interstellar objects approach the Sun, one of three things usually happens. They evaporate, they fragment, or they weaken dramatically. That's the rule. That's the expectation. But this object didn't follow the rule. Fire survival without damage. Telemetry from the James Webb Space Telescope suggested something unusual. No major fragmentation. No structural collapse. No chaotic breakup. Just continuation. Almost as if the object had passed through heat it was never meant to survive. And that alone raised a new question. Was it resilient, or was it protected? Milky Way. The faint return signal. Then came something unexpected. A faint, repeating radio pattern reappeared. Not strong. Not confirmed as structured. But consistent enough to notice. 3 pulses. A pause. Then silence. This time, however, it was weaker. More distant. Like a fading echo. Brain scientific divide deepens at this point. The scientific community split more sharply than ever. One group argued, "We are seeing rare but natural comet physics." Another group countered, "Natural physics does not behave this consistently across so many independent systems." Neither side could fully disprove the other. And that's where the tension began. Not in answers, but in uncertainty. Satellite trajectory analysis revisited after perihelion. Astronomers refined orbital models. The object's path remained hyperbolic, meaning it would leave the solar system permanently. No orbit. No return. But something subtle appeared in the recalculated projections. A slight flattening of deviation error. In simple terms, its motion was too smooth. Not impossible, but statistically unusual. Shooting star. The human pattern problem. Here's where things become psychologically important. When humans observe unknown systems, we instinctively try to connect patterns, assign meaning, predict intent. It's how we survive. It's how we understand chaos. But it also means, sometimes we see structure where only randomness exists. And scientists are aware of this bias. Very aware. Which is why every claim about 3I, ATLAS remains heavily debated. Milky Way. The important question at this stage, the real question is not, is it artificial? The real question is, why does it keep producing results we don't fully understand yet? Because science doesn't require mystery to be supernatural. It only requires incomplete information. New moon. The quiet possibility. There is also a simpler explanation. One that many researchers prefer. We are observing an unusual interstellar composition interacting with solar radiation in unexpected ways, producing effects we haven't catalogued before. In other words, a rare object. Not a designed one. Just an unfamiliar one. Shooting star. The edge of discovery. But history teaches something important. Every time humanity thought something was just unusual, it later became a new class of object, a new physical process, or a new scientific field. What looks like confusion today often becomes clarity tomorrow. Rocket. End of part 4 for now. 3I, ATLAS continues its journey outward. Quiet again. Distant again. But not forgotten. And the deeper question remains unresolved. Are we looking at a natural traveler, or the first object that simply doesn't fit the category we invented for it? After perihelion, something strange happened. Not a crash. Not a burst. Not a discovery. Silence. 3I, Atlas simply continued outward through space. After perihelion, something strange happened. Not a crash. Not a burst. Not a discovery. Silence. 3I, Atlas simply continued outward through space. No dramatic glow. No confirmed signal spikes. No visible change. But that silence wasn't comforting. It was heavier than the noise that came before it. Milky Way, the data doesn't disappear even when the object became faint, it never truly vanished from observation networks. The James Webb Space Telescope still tracked subtle infrared traces. Barely there. But persistent. Like a fading footprint on an infinite shore. Brain, the shift in scientific tone, something else changed too. Not in the object, but in the people watching it. The language of researchers